Hello, my name is Jamie Freiman. I'm a second year PhD student here at Rutgers University. And here I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview on the various projects that I've been working on at my short tenure here at Rutgers. So bulk of my research has actually focused on auditing big data within a company. Not necessarily data that the company's collecting from external sources, but internally generated data as well. So as we all know, in recent times, the volume of data that companies have been able to collect and record about themselves internally has started to grow. And this has been expedited by the fact that there's things like online trading systems that allow companies to reach a broader customer base, and it generates more transactions and more records that then have to be examined by auditors for things like fraud or any kind of material misstatement. So while these kind of data collection techniques have progressed, and the volume of data has increased, the auditing standards have not really caught up to this. And auditors are still using traditional sampling techniques that may not necessarily be appropriate when you're considering the fact that there are millions and billions of records that they're required to audit. So basically, this area of research that I've been working on focuses on methodologies for applying different types of techniques to the overall population of data and whittling it down to the most extreme cases of error, things that the auditor's attention needs to be called to. So it mostly focuses around full population analysis, something that is not considered normal practice within the auditing community at the moment. And once you get past examining the full population of data, especially with these large samples, the next problem that we start to examine is how do you differentiate amongst the large number of problematic outliers that you may find. Because when you're considering a population of 1 billion, you may have several thousand problematic outliers. So we developed different methodologies for filtering this data, and we also have started to incorporate new technologies and innovative technologies into this process. Things like text mining and cluster analysis that may not have been considered staples of auditing in the past that now may be more incorporated into the way that companies are audited. By the end of all of this, there needs to be a way that ranks all of these different outliers. So one area of research that fits into the stream of academic research and literature is this idea of suspicion scoring systems. So that's one area that I've been doing a lot of research into specifically. So how do you score these different outliers and rank them for the auditors to draw their attention to issues within the company's data framework? And then the final area within this dynamic is how does this fit into the audit paradigm, and what does this mean for the future of auditing? How will auditors be able to incorporate this? What will that look like for auditors in the future? And how are we going to train auditors in the future to have a better understanding of these technological forces that are at work when we're considering full population analytics? So that's auditing big data within a company, and that's where most of my research is focused. However, I do have a lot of other research interests and areas that I've written papers and examined different aspects of how new technologies get implemented into auditing. So one major thing that is a buzzword these days, as we all know, is blockchain. So I've done some research into blockchain, and one area that I'm particularly interested in is applying blockchain to accounting, more specifically applying blockchain to the environment of internal controls. Not only internal controls within a company, how blockchain can streamline the effectiveness of internal controls and their efficiency, but also how it can provide a more dynamic environment for auditors to examine the functionality of these internal controls. I've also examined the impact of some new technologies on auditor judgment and their decision making and risk assessment processes, which is an area that I'm particularly interested in. Another area that I'm very interested in is the impact of cybersecurity and the concerns that surround cybersecurity breaches on both firm performance and this new standard that's been released for auditors and accounting firms to provide cybersecurity assurance. So within the cybersecurity realm, I've examined how this sort of cybersecurity breach gets compounded into the value of the company by the market. How does the market react to these different types of breaches? That's one area that I'm very interested in. And another thing that I'm interested in is developing a framework surrounding these cybersecurity audits. Obviously, as I mentioned before, there is a new assurance guidelines that have been released, but there's no formal framework for how to conduct these audits on different clients that you are providing these services to. So that's something I'm interested in researching and creating. I've done a little bit of work in text mining, but I have also done an examination of how continuous auditing is actually applied in industry. So as we all know, Rutgers University provides a large stream of literature that move the paradigm of auditing from the annual type of audit towards a more continuous assurance dynamic. And the actual implementation of these technologies in industry is something that is under discussed in the literature. So this is something that I find particularly interesting and something that I've done some research in and spoken to some industry professionals and attempted to bridge the gap between academia and industry when it comes to these new advanced technologies and methodologies that need to be implemented in auditing. So that's a brief overview of my research. I hope you've enjoyed the show, and feel free to contact me if you have any questions, concerns, or desires to collaborate. Thank you very much.